everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
What up, everybody? What up, what up, what up? Look at you, Kim. Look at you, Albert. Look at you, Tony. It's the whole crew. Live from Washington, D.C. I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Replay viewers, good evening. Or good afternoon if you're watching later. Kim, I loved the show yesterday, and I want to apologize, actually.
Why?
Start the show with an apology.
What have you done?
Yesterday. I'd done this is very early on. You know, we're finding our way, and some things will stay and some things won't stay. And obviously, this is my parents' house where I am today. So even that is something new that we're doing, a remote thing that Tony set us up with, really cool setup. But so I'll join for a little bit here off the top of the show. But what I'm wanting to apologize for is yesterday. We ran something that we did very early in the first few weeks of the show because we wanted to ice an interview so that, you know, when we couldn't do a show or when I couldn't be there, whatever it might be, we would have that. And it was a really interesting topic. And he was very good. It was about psychedelics and the use of psychedelics in treatment for PTSD and treatment-resistant depression and all the
really interesting topic. Yeah,
it was super interesting, but it was too long. And so the apology is really sorry. We really overran the length that I would normally consider appropriate, but we did that because we didn't know better at the time. Now I know much better. Nothing will ever run that long on the show again. I mean, we have had a couple of, I can think of a couple of situations where a conversation might run longer, but I thought that really, we overstayed our welcome. That was my fault. So I want to apologize because that wasn't the author's fault. He was brilliant and really good. And I just feel as though we, in an effort to fill the time to ice something, went a little too far. Anyway, that was a quick apology, or it wasn't too quick. Even that apology was too long. You know what? I want to apologize for the length of that apology. I thought it was too long. I haven't really learned from the thing that I took as a note yesterday.
You know what
feeling too long.
You know what I did wrong yesterday? I didn't start the show by thanking our founding sponsor, tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. I didn't do it. And I did it later, but I tried to do it at the very beginning and I failed. So
well, then now would be a good time to do it if you'd like.
Well, I just feel like Steve Moskowitz is a great guy. And if you need help with your taxes, he's the one. We have to thank him for being there for us from the get-go. And I'm grateful to Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888 Tax Steele. You can see it on the bottom there. He's also at moskowitzllp.com. So Steve Moskowitz, he's the one.
Yeah. Mom and Dad have just gotten back from Dad's doctor's appointments. You're going to hear some background that they've just returned. It is a cold, rainy day here in Washington, D.C. It's 37 degrees and it's pouring rain. I mean, you know, it's weird when you're in California. I look at the rain as such a blessing, you know, just such a, my God, it just helps us in every conceivable way. But here, it ain't a blessing. I mean, it's just another nuisance. And my parents, 92 years old, have to slog through, you know, everything anyway. And you add cold rain to that, no fun. Anyway, they're just back. By the way, my folks, this will give you a sense for the household. They get at least two papers that I was able to identify, the morning papers. That's the Washington Post, okay? Center left, maybe center, you know, mainstream, I would say, media.
What's the headline there on the Post today?
Well, the headline is GOP strife comes to fore. It's really about the House Republicans and Kevin McCarthy and, you know, that. But more to the other point, this is the Washington Examiner. That's the
Washington
Times, excuse me.
Yeah.
It used to be the Examiner. It's the Washington Times, which is the right-wing paper. And so if you want that conservative, in quotes, right-wing take, that's here. And so their front page, just to run it out, is about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And
of course it is.
See, Twitter leaders alerted to Hunter Biden story. It was a, you know, exact. So FBI role in pre-election censorship. So all of that. So anyway, we have both represented. I wanted to ask Albert, Kim, with your permission,
Yes.
I wanted to just talk to Albert about a couple of big sporting things that are coming up. And Tony's a World Cup guy too. World Cup was yesterday, and I was kind of rooting for Morocco, to be honest. So the French beat the Moroccans, right, Albert?
Yeah, the French will be playing the Argentinians in the final, but imagine the state of Connecticut churning out an elite soccer team, because that's basically what Morocco did. A small country performing on the biggest of stages, and unfortunately they ended up a little short. But we're gonna get the passing of the torch with Kylian Mbappe of France and Leo Messi of Argentina. That's what everybody's kind of saying. It's like the next generation striker. It's gonna emerge, and this is the time.
Not to be political, but I was rooting for Morocco because of the politics, because Morocco was colonized by the French. The French were colonizing everything. You know, well, my God, the French had parts of this country, right? The French sold us the West, right? Wasn't that the Louisiana Purchase deal? Wasn't that through the French? Anyway, so the French, they conquered. I mean, when we say colonialized or colonized, it's a polite way, really, to talk about the fact that people were enslaved and people were killed. And so, anyway, I know that was a long time ago, but I still feel like if you go to Morocco today, the older members of the population and sort of the higher end of that populace, they still speak French. They can speak French and do speak French. So the ripple effects centuries later are still there. So anyway, I bring all of that political stuff because I didn't know who to root for. So I just pick it based on, well, that country was colonized by the other country. So I'm rooting for the conquered to beat the conqueror. Unfortunately, the Moroccans, as you say, it was pretty extraordinary, I guess, for that small country.
Yeah, it was a deep run that they made, and it was definitely very impressive. And if you look at the French, the makeup of the French roster, you could definitely see their colonization paths. With a lot of them don't really have, they do have French ties, but a lot of them it's a good team. So I don't blame them. Like the U.S. team, they have American ties, but they're all from the Netherlands. They're all German. So I was joking earlier that the U.S. team was the U.S. European team. So
yeah,
but the final should be really good. And unfortunately, Mark, there won't be a halftime show for you. No.
I was hoping for a big halftime show. What is what's the deal on the like when that happens? It's Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, and I feel like the whole world will stop for a little bit to watch the mystery spray come out, to watch hopefully not the gurney,
the mystery spray.
The mystery spray.
But Albert, when is it? Does it go up against our show?
If it does, let me just double check here. It's actually this Sunday at 7 a.m. Mark. So that is 4 a.m. your time.
All right.
On the East Coast.
Sunday at 7 a.m.
Just in time for mimosas.
No, it's 4 a.m. It's 4 a.m. on the West Coast, sir.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, 4 a.m. on the West Coast.
Still do mimosas. That's all right.
7 a.m. on the East
a little earlier.
You just have to stay up all night is the way to do that.
Can I thank some people?
Oh, please.
These are people that have contributed to the Mark Thompson Show via PayPal, because our whole YouTube snafu. So if you could put the banner up to show people how to do that, that'd be great, Albert. But I just want to read some names, some people that have, I know, Mark, you're going to cry. It's okay. Just breathe. Just breathe.
Cry.
It's okay. So Kevin Hobbs, Brian Vio, James Moss from Mossware Pro Audio, Donna Hobbs, Sheila Gall, Ricky Freed, and Beth Farmer all kicked in and donated and supported us via PayPal. We really appreciate it. If you would like to support the show, there's the address, themarkthompsonshow.com. many ways to contribute, and we are grateful and thankful. And I just wanted to make sure that those folks got mentioned and noted, because we appreciate it so much. And I know it's a hard time of year sometimes for people, but we are very grateful. If you haven't yet, please click like and subscribe, because we need you here on the Mark Thompson Show as well.
Yeah, we're really appreciative of that. And hi, Dad. How are you? We're on the air now, Dad. Please.
Hi, Dad.
Turn this into a studio, okay? We just thanked our people who are so nice. And you can put on. You want to put on a light? Sure. Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Yeah. Is that better, Dad, or not? Not brighter. We want it brighter. I mean, Dad, we're doing a show here, a big show. All right. Okay. Oh my God. All right. Jeez,
I feel
Dad,
like
please.
you have that little boy at the parents' kitchen table look.
All right. Dad, you've killed the whole. How was the doctor? Was it all right?
To me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for. Is Don on the phone?
I'll talk to you in a second, pal. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, buddy. He just came back from the doctor, so I got to deal with. I want to get a sense of what's going on.
That's all right. I can handle it from here. If you'd like to check out and come back in, you're more than welcome.
I do want to mention one thing that happened yesterday on the flight.
I was going to ask you about that. You had a cocktail first, right?
I had a cocktail in the lounge.
A martini. A martini.
That's correct. A martini. And then got on board. Everything was fine. And then they come over this speaker and they say, we're in flight now, probably, I don't know, 20,000 feet, something like that. Is there maybe higher, because actually it was like an hour into the flight. Is there a doctor on board? We need you immediately to row 24.
Code red.
And then he said, code red.
Yep.
And then this red thing, I've never seen it before, came up. Like these red lights came up. And you can see it on my Instagram for those who care. Mark Thompson TV is my Instagram name. Anyway, so all of a sudden, they throw on these masks. They throw on the visors, which I haven't seen since the beginning of COVID. And they run down the aisle back to 24. And none of us know what's going on. We're all trying to speculate. But the best part was that they're running back and forth and running back and forth. After about 10 minutes, one of them's running back up, one of the flight attendants, and the guy next to me grabs the flight attendant, okay, like reaches out and the flight attendant stops, looks back and goes, hey, when you get a chance, can I get another vodka tonic?
We know what's really important, right?
He had his own code red going on, Kim. There was a code red on the plane, but the guy to my right, he had a code red. He needed a vodka tonic. I was quite sympathetic.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
I love it.
All right, I want to talk to Dad, see how the doctor went.
Are you coming back?
I'll try to come back if I can.
You don't have to, but I'd love to have you. You're great from the kitchen table.
If we
Hi to your mom.
Dad, they say hello, and Mom, they say hello.
People want to know if they got their beanies.
Yes, I brought them their beanies, but we haven't tried them on yet. We'll do it today, and I'll have it for you tomorrow or later today. So.
Okay.
Hey, I want to thank. I didn't mean to skip over those who've made donations. Kevin Hobbs and those others who you mentioned are really supporting us on an ongoing basis, and that's critical to keeping the lights on. You mentioned the YouTube thing, and the YouTube is a snarl, and I'm working with it. But
I do actually want you back, Tom. Tom, I do want Mark back
because I know Kim doesn't want me back.
I do.
But because they've eliminated our ability to monetize, so we get nothing on this show, and we get no super stickers and no super chats. We're a little bit of a free fall right now with the funding from the YouTube side. So that brings me to my gratefulness when it comes to those who have taken the extra step, gone to the markthompsonshow.com and gone to PayPal and given us something through PayPal. Wow, helps a lot. So I didn't want to skip over that at all. Really love you guys. And by the way, all those names are added to our crawl at the end of the show. We recognize all of you through PayPal or Patreon. Your name is added to the credits. So thank you. All right, guys. Albert, Tony, Kim, everyone. Talk later.
Care,
I'll be watching.
Come pop back in whenever you want. We're here. We're doing it.
Bye.
Okay. See you later. Bye. That was cool. Have Mark from Washington, D.C. popping in. There's some other things that I wanted to show you, because I had requested people send me their holiday items or their holiday photos, and got some more yesterday. I showed you a bunch of them, and then I got a couple more yesterday, and one of these pictures is so, so pretty. So let me go and see if I can show you these. First of all, let's see. It was Teresa who sent in this picture of her. Look at that massive Santa. So cool. Looks so Christmassy in there. And then this is her in the other room, her Christmas village. Check it out. That's a Christmas village. Holy moly. That looks amazing, Teresa. That's a lot of work right there. And you know what I'm thinking about when I look at that Christmas village? I'm thinking about packing it all back up in tiny boxes. This is from Michael. This is his dad's house in Tiburon. Merry Christmas. There's the Golden Gate Bridge. What a view.
Yeah,
Wow.
wow, that is a view. And the sunset too. Wow.
Isn't that gorgeous? Imagine having that looking out the window and that's your view every day. When I was trying to find fancy living rooms, I was trying to find living rooms with a view, and I tried to find this shot and I couldn't. And he actually lives in a spot where that is what you're looking at. So Merry Christmas and from Tiburon, from Michael's family. So amazing. You can check, you can email me if you want to. It is kimmcallister@gmail.com. That's my email address. 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 L's. You got it. You can email. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about Mark's merch. We saw that Mark's parents got their beanies, but here's a guy we should all feel sorry for, right? This is Jeff. Jeff is vacationing in Kaanapali, Maui, and you can tell he's roughing it by the pool there with a cocktail, but he also has his KGO in Exile shirt. So there he is, looking good with his hat by the palm trees in the pool. Thank you, Jeff, for representing on vacation in Hawaii. GetMarkMerch.com. There's a bunch of stuff that was just added, including the throw pillow and, of course, the touch tool. And so all kinds of great things on getmarkmerch.com. And thanks to Jeff for sending in that picture. I have another picture that we just got this morning that I haven't had time to put in this system we're using, but I'll show it tomorrow. So if you have a picture, again, you can email it to me, kimmcallister@gmail.com. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw the website there. That's good. Very good. Very good. I want to talk to you about. Oh, you know what? I saw this article. I don't know if you've seen this, Albert, Tony. There's a new article in the in SF Gate about this whole push to get people that are kind of mentally ill on the streets and unable to take care of themselves off the streets by putting them into a conservatorship. And the rules are pretty strict when it comes to that. You have to meet all kinds of requirements, but Mayor London Breed is trying to kind of lessen the requirements. So what she wants to do right now under current California law, a third party can only be granted powers of conservatorship over an adult if a judge decides that adult is gravely disabled, unable to meet their own basic personal needs of food, clothing, or shelter. But Mayor Breed is saying that standard is too high. What she wants to add in is if they are unable to take care of their medical needs. So they could be able to procure their own food, clothing, and shelter. But if they medically can't take care of themselves, then she wants them to be able to be placed under a conservatorship. So they're working with state legislators to try to change the rules to get that done. Of course, big civil rights fight is likely with all that. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of changes and a lot of people that, I don't know, maybe surprised to find themselves under care that they thought, hey, I'm making it out here. And all of a sudden, no, they're in a facility. So, I mean, I guess it's a way to deal with the homeless crisis. And
it's another chapter in trying to solve, well, not really solve, just try to navigate through the situation, right? We see it every year. It's always at the center of attention of everything going on in San Francisco, and who knows, this it could work. And the conservatorship was like in the news for other reasons, like with Britney
right.
Spears last year, but then this
That's
is a
true.
different type of conservatorship. So
Well,
we'll
we
see.
saw Governor Gavin Newsom, trying to, I forget the name of the program, Compassionate Care or something like that, where he's trying to do that as well. And now Mayor Lyndon Breed is definitely on board. She has been, but trying to get that definition changed, that's going to be a huge thing. And it's definitely taking away rights from people. And I don't know how that's going to be perceived. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that need help that aren't getting it because legally they can't be forced into getting help.
Yeah,
So,
you got to help yourself, right?
I think so. I mean, yeah, I think you do have to help yourself, or someone has to help you. And it's that question that you ask when you see people on the street, like, why can't we do something for them? Why can't we? How can that happen? That they're laying in a doorway or spouting nonsense on the street corner. What can we do for them? And so it is a solution. Uh, I don't know. Nick says, yeah, let's ask Britney Spears what she thinks about conservatorships.
I mean, in some cases, well, Brittany is like, she had her own thing going. She's making her own money. So it's a little different. Like if you're having somebody handle your stuff that way, but if you do need the care and if we could provide that basic need, like you just need some organization around, you need some like a direction to be pointed in. It's a good option for people.
Oh, Calvin says, yeah, it's called Care Court. That's the governor's Care Court. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I guess on one hand, I've been saying, let's try everything that works because obviously we have a problem. It's way too big for us it's growing every day. And it seems like it's gotten so out of hand that we have to do something. And so anyone that has an idea that's different, that's new, that might actually make a difference, I don't, I'm not going to hold against them the fact that it may take away people's rights. I just feel like if we go at it with good intentions and if we try very hard to make sure that people are seen and respected during this process, it could be a good thing. And if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work out for people, then we stop it. So I don't know. This is kind of where I'm approaching it at this point. Let's see what some of the comments are. Yeah. Oh no, they're talking about how disheveled Mark looked. He did have the little boy at the kitchen table look, where mom's feeding you cereal at the kitchen table. I'm gonna say that.
I mean, when you go back home, right? You're just
You totally 100%. Like you're there.
Very comfortable. Mom and dad are here, so
That's very
it's
cute.
very relatable on Mark's end.
I also saw this story, and this one I thought was a little bit funny. Oh gosh, now I can't find it. It's a story about the economy and how everything costs more, right? Like the groceries cost more, going out to dinner costs more, and how that is affecting sex. So, especially for single people, but even for couples, it's harder to go out to afford dinner, to go out on dates, right? And so apparently that's affecting people's sex lives, the cost of everything. Does that even make sense? I don't know. What do you think, Tony? I can see you pondering.
Well, money problems always affects relationships, right? So when
Right.
you're spending more money, that's part of it. But yeah, I guess if you can't get away from the kids, then then you're just
You can't afford to go out to dinner, fancy dinner, and so I don't know. I mean, I think people all seem to find a way, but I think maybe if you were single and you were trying to take someone out on a date and you couldn't afford the date part of it, then probably the sex part of it's not coming your way.
yeah.
Because if you're not even asking anyone on a date, then
dating's
you're
a
not
mess
gonna-
these days anyway. Let's be
you're
honest.
just not going to get anywhere with that. So the economy is affecting hot sex apparently, and that's a bummer for all of us. It truly, truly is a bummer for all of us. I feel sad about that. With the sexo, and for the single folks among the Mark Thompson listeners, I'm sorry. I think it will get better. What do they say? Costs are coming down a little bit. The economy is getting better, so maybe your sex life will pick up very, very soon. Okay, let's welcome in Steve Moskowitz because he is our founding sponsor and one heck of a cool guy. You saved a guy $1 million yesterday.
Yes, what happened was I had a client who went to somebody else for ZRC, and he got about 100 grand. He was very happy. Somebody hands you 100 grand.
Yep.
But then he started talking to his buddies that had much smaller companies, and they were making way more than him. Like one of his buddies, much smaller company, he got 300 grand. They said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I chatted with him, and what happened is we know with ERC, there's 4 periods that we're talking about, and it's quarters 1, 2, and 3 of 2021, and in 2020, the time period 3/13/20 to 12/31/20. And there's 2 ways to go ahead and determine it. The drop in gross revenue, the easy way, the math way, which most of the firms are doing. And if you don't qualify, a lot of firms are saying that's it, no ERC for you. They don't want to go into the time, trouble, effort, etc., of figuring if you qualify under the facts and circumstances. That's exactly what this other firm did. They only took the part that qualified, and he didn't realize, but it wasn't a yes or no. He got the part. He got the 100 grand. Initially, he was happy. And when we did the facts and circumstances test, he qualifies. He left $1 million on the table. So we're going to be filing for him. And when I was talking with the facts and circumstances, the client's wife really got it. She was saying, "See, I told you." And the wife figured it out on her own before I even called. Basically, I was confirming what the wife had figured out. And the wife did a much better job than the other firm did, because when I was saying, well, this factor, she says, "That's exactly what I told my husband. That's exactly what I told my husband." That phone call made the difference of $1 million for that client. Now, I realize not everybody's going to get $1 million, but that shows you how powerful this facts and circumstances test is if you qualify.
So at this point at the firm, at the Moskowitz LLC firm, is it the busy time of year where everyone right before the end of the year is going crazy to call you? Or
Well,
is this kind of a weird lull?
Here at Moskowitz LLP, we're very blessed. We're always busy, but we're never too busy for new clients. And as you know, it's not just me sitting in one little room by myself. I have a lot of colleagues that are happy to help our clients.
Okay, so it's a good time. It's always a good time to call.
It's always a good time.
All right, and it is 888 tax deal. It is moskowitzllp.com on the internet. You can see it there on the bottom of the screen. And we are so grateful to you, Steve. I'm so thankful to have you, and you always have the best shirts.
Oh, thanks for, before the pandemic, I had a closet full of white shirts and blue suits. It's basically a uniform. I look the same every day.
Sure.
And now with the remote working, sometimes I wear a suit depending, but most of the time I don't. Now I have all these shirts in the closet. I'm taking, I say, I can put these shirts on today.
Yeah, you look great. It's always a new color. You had one, the red and white one. You look like a candy cane. I loved it.
Well, thanks. I have another red and white with in checks. I'll wear that for you too.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in. I hope to see you next hour as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks to Steve Moskowitz. If you need tax help, please call him. He's amazing. Let's check in and do a little bit of news now on the Mark Thompson Show. I do think that we can pull it off. This is. Do we have a news theme? No, maybe we could. All right, I'll just do some news. How about that? This is the Mark Thompson Show News Network broadcast. It is, again, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. There is a near record number of Americans saying that they depend on their next paycheck to make ends meet. I think we kind of knew that already. A new report from financial services company Lending Club finds 63% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. That is an increase of 3% from October. A Texas congresswoman calling for a ban on assault weapons in Texas. Congress is holding a hearing focused on finding solutions to stop gun violence months after the deadly school shooting at Uvalde, Texas, that left 21 dead. Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee said victims and their families were failed by the nation's loose gun laws. I wonder how that's going to go over in Texas. Americans still feel about the same about each political party after last month's midterm elections. A new Gallup poll shows 42% of Americans say they have a favorable opinion of the Republican Party, compared with 39% saying the same thing about Democrats. Those figures have remained just about unchanged from a September poll. Heads up for last minute shoppers in the Bay Area. There could be a strike next week at the Macy's in San Francisco's Union Square right before Christmas. About 400 workers voted to walk out for the 2 days before Christmas. Macy's Union Square. That's only if they don't get more pay and better health care coverage. Their union president says the employees deserve a fair contract that recognizes their hard work and sacrifice over the last couple of years. And if you're flying out of SFO, you may be glad to know that United Airlines is trying to add about 2,200 jobs at San Francisco International Airport. It's all part of an expansion to buy 200 new Boeing 787s. The goal is to replace the fleet with newer, more fuel-efficient planes. The large aircraft order means more pilots, more flight attendants, ramp workers, customer service agents, the whole thing. Officials say those are just some of the positions that the airline is looking to fill at SFO by the end of next year. And Trevor Noah is making it 3 straight Grammys. The Recording Academy announcing Trevor Noah will once again host the awards show in February. He said one of his favorite things about the Grammys is getting to experience artists in their rawest element, which he said is performing their music live. And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, it's all about Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888-TAX-STEAL. You can also reach him on the internet at moskowitzllp.com. Okay, so we are bound now for an interview with the one and only David Katz. He has not called in yet.
He's gonna call me in a second. He's driving into the office right now, just so you give you a heads up. So he's driving in now. He'll call in just a second.
Okay, so we're going to talk to David Katz. I have a bunch of stuff to talk to him about. Right now is your moment. Pardon me. If you have anything that you would like to throw David Katz's way, please pop it over into the chat. I've got some things to talk to him about already in my queue, and one of them is this story that a judge has dismissed former President Trump's case challenging Mar-a-Lago's document seizure after an appeals court ended a special master review. So I will ask David Katz about that because I think it's interesting. This whole special master thing is something that former President Trump had requested. And now it looks like that special master review has ended. So what was the point of it all? You know, I have some questions about that. And I'd love to ask David Katz your questions as well. So if you have anything, you can pop it into the chat room. Love to hear it and talk to David Katz about it. Oh, Jennifer wants to know, has a question for Albert. All right, we can do that before we talk to David Katz. Jennifer, Albert wants to know your take on Brock Purdy starting tonight. And no, you didn't miss it. He hasn't talked about it yet. So thank you for the question, Jennifer. What do you think about that? I mean, is he going to do all right? Did he have an oblique injury?
Yeah, an oblique, but they just cleared him just a couple minutes before the show started. Not that I've been keeping all my updates on, but he will be playing tonight, and hopefully more of the same. We have a good offense. We don't need him to lose the game, or we don't need him to win the game. He just can't lose the game. So we have a great defense. We have a great running back.
Yeah, say with an oblique injury, he's pretty much they're going to run the ball a lot tonight, aren't they?
Exactly. Like these football players are crazy, and the Niners have just been flooded with injuries. Like everyone's injured. Even our third string backup quarterback is injured. So,
yeah. John Smith. Are they on tonight? Yes, they're on tonight. Who are they playing?
They're playing. We're going up north to Seattle, playing the Seahawks. Okay. So if we win this game, I say we as if I'm part of the team. Yes, if we win this game, it's looking like
we.
Yeah, it's looking like we're going to win the division.
Oh, Nikki chiming in. Hi, Nikki Maduro. I so want the Niners to win tonight. I want this bitterly cold night in Seattle to leave those Sea Chicken fans on ice. That is so mean, Nikki. That is brutal.
I agree with you, Nikki. Yeah, I want them to lose, but it's gonna be loud. There's a lot of speculation that they've been canning the fan noise up in Seattle for years. So we'll see if they're gonna do that again tonight.
Doesn't it seems to me at least like they keep winning. Even if they lost this one, they'd probably still make the playoffs, right? I mean, their record's pretty good.
Record's pretty good, and the rest of the division is doing bad. It's bad when the favorites of the division were probably the Niners and the Rams. The Rams are having a terrible season, and then the Cardinals were probably the third best team, and they're having an even worse season than the Rams. So it's an unlikely underdog season for Seattle, but it's looking like the Niners will make the dance, and we'll see if we could just get hot at the right time.
All right, so we'll watch that. That's on this evening, right? For that's weird. Thursday night football, is that often the case?
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while now.
And it's on Amazon Prime Video now too, so it's like even more weird because it's not even on TV; it's streamed.
Oh, that is strange. I guess that's another indicator the world is changing. How long has that been going on?
Just this season, right? For Amazon?
Yeah, just this season for the Amazon Prime stuff. But
because before that, it was NFL Network, I believe, was running it.
Yeah, so it was already hard to get.
It was no one watched those games anyway. Yeah.
But also, it's just a super wacky time to have a football game. Like, you just end up playing on Sunday, and then you have like a couple of days to turn around to practice and get your bodies right for an early Thursday game. And usually the Thursday games, because both teams aren't as prepared, it's not a great viewer experience.
They haven't been very good games.
If you're a betting man, bet the unders, bet for field goals.
I wonder if they have the same viewership on Amazon Prime that they did on a major network.
I mean, Amazon Prime did pay they have like an elite cast of it picked like announcers. They have Al Michaels, they have Kirk Herbstreit, that's a former NBC guy, a current ESPN guy. They threw the bag at these guys, so I'm guessing they do have some money in viewership for football. If it's football, we should all know, anytime there's football, we're all watching.
Yeah. Well, everyone in the Bay Area will be watching this one for sure. So, and Nikki's going to be talking about it, and Albert tomorrow. So we'll find out how it all went out. I'm just surprised that it's not on a major network. I guess I wasn't paying attention because I'm not extra sportsy. But it just seems to me like so many fewer people would be watching. But I guess not true. I mean, who doesn't have all these new services and streaming services now? So.
Yeah, well, according to Gary White here in the comment section, it's going to be on KTVU. So I'm thinking, since it's a local broadcast, or for a local team for us, this is the first time we've been on Thursday night this season on the streaming platform. So we'll see. I'll have to double check on that and confirm. But
all right,
that would make sense that the local team should be able to watch the game on TV.
Okay. All right. That's good. I mean, I'm sure if people want to see it, they'll find it one way or the other. People will seek it out. So yesterday, as we wait for David Katz, I had talked about this story about Elon Musk failing to pay rent at many of his office buildings that are Twitter office buildings, including the downtown San Francisco headquarters. I think they just stopped paying rent. That is it. This story that was first reported in the New York Times said they have not paid rent for the downtown office space in San Francisco or any of their global offices for weeks. And it's part of this big, what it seems like, part of this big cost-cutting strategy. They had that auction where they auctioned off the Bluebird statue and a bunch of espresso machines and things from the office. And the auctioneer said, this is not because of financial problems. Okay, if you're laying off half the staff, if you are not paying rent anymore, even though you're occupying the space, if you are, I don't know, auctioning off much of the wares of Twitter, right? Then doesn't that say that you are having financial trouble? I don't know. This is the richest guy in the world, Elon Musk.
Yeah, and this morning, I think he just sold another load of Tesla shares, and he just got another $3.6 billion in stocks this morning.
He must have, in that $44 billion Twitter sale, he must have completely exhausted all of his reserves. And now he's like, oh God. And so trying to, get some liquid cash back. Tony, what's up, my friend?
Cass is ready.
Oh, hi, David Katz.
Yeah,
all right.
I'll put him through right now.
Let's bring him on. David Katz, hi, can you hear me?
I can, Kim. It's great to be with you.
Okay, it's great to be with you. You sound super loud, but hopefully Tony can fix that for us. I am so grateful that you joined us here on the Mark Thompson Show. Thank you so much. I have so much to talk to you about. And one of the things the first thing that I had on my list was this whole Mar-a-Lago document seizure thing there's a judge that has dismissed former President Trump's case, challenging the document seizure at Mar-a-Lago after an appeals court ends the special master review. First of all, can I ask you about the special master review? Because it's something former President Trump wanted, right? And now
Yes.
it seems to be over. What was the whole point of that? Did it ever even do anything?
The point of it was for him to delay and run out the clock.
Right.
Something like he did with the taxes, where he spent, everybody else's time for 2 years, and only at the very, very last few days actually did the House finally get his tax records. The New York District Attorney, it took them 2 years, and going to the U.S. Supreme Court and winning to get his tax returns. And then eventually the DA had changed in New York, and they ended, and at least so far as we've seen so far, they've ended up not prosecuting Trump. So the delay worked. He ran out the clock. He won a battle that a lot of people thought would end in his criminal indictment in New York. So I think that was the strategy here. And he went down the road, and he got this judge named Cannon. Patton, I used to call her Loose Cannon, because her rulings were so unhinged from the facts and the law, right? But as long as he had her on the case and she was having a special master, then they had a special master who was older. They thought that maybe he wouldn't be Johnny on the spot. He did get right on it. That also surprised Trump. They also went to the 11th Circuit, and they eventually got an order. That's the appeals court that was over that District Judge Cannon that was down the road from Mar-a-Lago that Trump had run the case to. They got a ruling from the 11th Circuit, the Department of Justice did, Kim, which said that, no, there was no need for a special master. This was a run-of-the-mill search, whether the person had been president or not, and we don't put special masters and observers and blocks in the middle of a criminal investigation, that would actually violate the separation of powers, which is the judge's rule on cases, but investigations are handled by another branch of government, the executive branch, and so it actually went nowhere. Trump did nothing but spend a lot of money, whether he's going to actually pay for the special master for the copying. He's had 5 bankruptcies. This may be another bankruptcy. I hate to try to collect that money out of him for the special master that didn't do him anything except boomerang. He basically shot himself in both feet on this one.
You talked about Judge Eileen Cannon, and she was a Trump appointee. Is there some type of, I know a judge is supposed to recuse him or herself when they feel like there's a conflict of interest, but is there some type of rule where if you appoint a judge and then you have a case before them, that they shouldn't be allowed to hear it?
Well, that's a very good question. And no, we don't have any rule like that, because if you think about it, a judge can sit on the case of a president or the case of a presidential issue, even though that president appointed the judge. You take the presidents who've served for 8 years, some of the ones like Obama himself, some of the ones like Clinton, they had, near the end of their term, Kim, they had appointed a large percentage of the judges who were sitting both on the trial courts, the appellate courts. Look at Trump with his 3 U.S. Supreme Court picks. And as much as I don't agree with the 3 U.S. Supreme Court picks of his, the ones that are really presenting these conflict of interest issues are not the ones he appointed. There have been the allegations against Alito, which at least so far I haven't seen the evidence for, and then the overwhelming evidence that Clarence Thomas, not appointed by Trump, is staying on these cases that he absolutely should recuse himself because his own wife is interested in the outcome. For instance, the Mark Meadows tapes, the ones that are being leaked and we're listening to right now, the ones that implicate his wife. He's the only justice on the Supreme Court of the 9 who said, oh, no, don't release those. I'm ruling that you should not release those. They really embarrassed my wife, we find out. So you wonder these conflicts of interest. But no, you ask a very good question. And if you think about it, it's almost a rule of necessity that you could barely decide some cases. The thing that's offensive about what happened with Trump and this Mar-a-Lago, and why I'm always pointing out that he ran right down the road to her, is that there was a judge who was appointed to the case. There was a very able magistrate judge who had approved the search warrant after a lot of study and making sure that the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. And that magistrate judge near Mar-a-Lago approved the search. he was the logical person to go back to on all of these questions. Instead of going to the logical person or going to the chief judge, there was a judge right down the road who was the only judge in a small court just north of Mar-a-Lago. Instead of going to Fort Lauderdale, to Miami, to the where most of the judges were, he pinpointed this filing in her division of the district. And in that division, she was the only judge seated there. So it was absolute old-fashioned judge shopping, and he shopped the case to her. And then she ruled in these very peculiar, unprecedented ways in his favor, and it just kind of had a bad odor for the federal judiciary.
You talked a little bit about Trump's stalling tactics, and he's famous for that in court, no matter what the case is. I wonder, the American people, many of them, half of them, seem to be waiting for justice to take place after January 6th, after all the evidence we heard in the hearings, after the tape came out in Georgia about the just find me 11,000 votes, all of this. How does this person not wear an orange jumpsuit? Like, how is this possible? So when you talk about the stalling tactics, I mean, I know he's paying big money, or supposed to be paying big money, to people that have these ideas of how to, get him more time. I guess my question to you is, are we ever, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Uh-oh, I think we might have a problem. I was going to ask you if you, no. No.
Sounds just good. I hear you fine.
Okay, good. My question was going to be, like, when do we see the end of these stalling tactics? When is the judge finally going to say enough is enough? Here's the, we need to get on the stick and get justice for the American people.
Well, the thing that's hard to understand a little bit is that while he has delayed things, he really hasn't won. He won by delaying, but in part that's because of the tenacity, the perseverance or lack of it of some of the people who were pursuing him. As I said, the New York district attorney finally did get those tax records. He got enough, it looked to me, on a silver platter to indict Trump, and not the organization and not this one and that one. Trump. Put Trump in an orange jumpsuit if he lost his criminal trial in New York. And yet that case was not brought. At least to date, it hasn't been brought. But most of these cases have been wrapped up, Kim, within the statute of limitations. The case in Georgia, while it's been stalled, that one actually seems to be going ahead because there's some real fights there. Senator Graham did have a right to go challenge because he's a sitting senator. It turned out that he lost. Some of these other people, Giuliani, didn't want to go there. And they said, well, you can drive down there. You can take a cab from New York City right to Atlanta, but you're getting your behind over there, some judge said down there. And the judges have been pretty good on this, with the exception of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I think in fairness to them, you have to say some of these were fairly novel issues. Presidents hadn't gotten themselves in so many imbroglios as he had. And it was remember the New York Times, it was like one a day. It wasn't one a week. It was one mess a day, one challenged illegal activity. And the Supreme Court does have other business to do. But I think it's very important for people to remember, like the Mueller investigation, when Biden came into office, when Merrick Garland became Attorney General, a lot of that stuff was still timely. If it had a 5-year statute of limitations, what Trump and Michael Cohen did to pay off those women right before the 2016 election, that was within the 5-year statute of limitations. A lot of the emolument stuff where he just stuck money into his pocket at that hotel of his in Washington, D.C., by having lobbyists and people who wanted things from the Trump administration stay there at inflated prices, that may be timely now, but it certainly was timely when Biden and Merrick Garland came in. And you'll remember how frustrated we were before we saw some signs of, vigor, of a little bit of alacrity by, Merrick Garland. We were really very frustrated that why wasn't he moving along? Why did it seem like all of these things that had been delayed when Trump and his minions were in there, why were they still bogged down when other people were controlling, other administrations, all of those criminal investigations? And one last point, Kim, it is a little frustrating to see this Bankman-Fried case move with this unbelievable speed, with such dispatch. You see what the FBI can do in 3 weeks when they want to, what the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District can do when they want to. People say to themselves, this might have been a bad guy. It might have been $1.8 billion. There's also the old saying, a fool and his money are soon parted. I don't mean to show a lack of sympathy. I have sympathy for the Madoff people. A lot of them were older.
Right.
I have sympathy for these people. But at the same time, why did this one need treatment within 3 weeks? They could have surveilled him down there in the Bahamas. They could have done a lot of things. And meanwhile, Trump is, we're going into 6 years, and we're letting the statute. We could do a show where we did month by month which statutes are now gone, which crimes can no longer be prosecuted because authorities have waited so long. And I was one of those prosecutorial authorities. And having been one of them, I know cases can be sped up. They can be slowed down. No rush to judgment. You certainly can't say it's a rush to judgment with Trump. We've been looking at some of this stuff for 5 and 6 years.
Well, it feels like truly, and we knew this, but it's just another reminder that the rules are different for different people, right?
Unfortunately, that certainly seems to be true. That certainly does seem to be true.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face to everyone else. John writes that
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing on that?
Yeah.
Senator Edwards, you remember, was prosecuted. One of the ironies was, and he was a Democrat, not a Republican. He'd run for vice president with Kerry, almost won.
Right.
And then
he had the my baby daddy thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He was also acquitted, Kim, and you know who prosecuted him? The same guy, Jack Smith, who's now the special prosecutor. That Jack Smith also prosecuted a Republican governor of Virginia on what looked like very good charges factually and legally, but the U.S. Supreme Court kind of changed the legal construct, and so they said that actually his conduct, which certainly looks squirrely, was not technically illegal. There wasn't a sufficient quid pro quo. So, I mean, you can say, I understand being cynical, but you can say, here's a special prosecutor who went after a high Republican official, a governor, went after a former vice presidential candidate. It's true that neither case came to victory, but those do tend to be very hard cases, and the U.S. Supreme Court has cut back on, they've made it a higher threshold to try to prove those cases and to show almost a quid pro quo. I mean, almost you have to have a videotape of saying, I am giving you this to change your vote on the gun legislation. You are going to not allow assault rifles to be banned by the federal Congress. Yes, thank you very much for this money. That's not what you get in the real world. And the winking and blinking and stuff like that becomes very, very hard to prove. This governor down in Virginia, he gave all kinds of special favors to one of these lobbyists, and they said, well, they weren't exclusively legislative things, blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, you wring your hands and you say, wait a second, if that were you or me, and I told a police officer that, you give $200 to a police officer and not give me a ticket,
The handcuffs
I know
would be
a friend
on.
who got written up for that, right? My friend got written up for that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, John, we have a viewer, John Smith, who writes in that Georgia voter intimidation and voter fraud should have been the nail in Trump's coffin. He self-incriminated himself, and it's on tape. Kind of what you were saying. I mean, it's on tape. How do the handcuffs not come on an hour after the phone call's made? I don't know.
Well, this was the famous call down into Georgia. Find me 11,000 votes.
Right.
Was it that one or?
Yes.
Okay, there was also the one with Giuliani and where they destroyed the life of this a black woman down in Georgia who was doing nothing else but being a poll watcher, and they messed up her mom's life too. Yeah. That was another, insidious incident down there. But with that, how come the handcuffs may yet come on? It may be that this state official down there, Fannie Willis, is that her name? She's the elected district attorney of Fulton County, Georgia. She seems to have quite a solid case put together. And I imagine she's going to go after some people, Giuliani, maybe Meadows, and then try to flip one of them against Trump. So your writer in should stay tuned because that one does. Now, why the handcuffs don't come on an hour later? All I can say, and I used to always argue the other side, but the other side of it is, do we really want to be like Peru? Do we want to be like South Korea, where 6 of 7 presidents, in a row go to jail? Now, people say, no, it's not going to be 6 out of 7. It's going to be 1 out of 7. It's going to be Trump. Trump is the egregious one, and no one is above the law. And this man is egregiously above the law because, as the fellow writes in, that one seemed to be, he didn't expect to be taped, People wonder how Trump got caught on some of these things. He figured a call from the president, he's just going to talk one-on-one with the guy. He doesn't know the guy's going to have a staff ready to go, make a tape recording, and it's going to leak. He figures he's a fellow Republican, so he'll at least keep a secret if he's not going to do a fellow Republican a favor. Raffensperger didn't do any of that. He outed him. He outed the phone call. He had a tape of the phone call. Yeah. And now it's like, was I a little too optimistic? I meant when I said find them, I didn't mean concoct them. I meant, you guys know where they get misplaced. You know where they get misplaced. Go find some of the ones that were validly cast and misplaced. That'll be his defense at trial if it comes to that. And of course, if they have an insider who can say, no, I had this and that conversation. I can tell you this, being a criminal defense attorney myself, as long as Trump seems powerful, it seems like he can pay back those people. A lot of witnesses are going to be chilled. He's going to be chilled. When he starts to go down that slippery slope where it's all falling apart, people will line up, like the Vichy government of France, right? They'll line up. No, I wasn't with the invading army. The Germans, no, I was always loyal French. What are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
So since we're on the topic of former President Trump, I don't know, Tony, can we play the big announcement that he had today? Do we have that? If we don't, I don't know. That's okay. But he made this. Okay, we're gonna play it. He had this big announcement, major announcement. We think he stole it from the Mark Thompson show, but it was this big buildup as one does, right? If you're Trump, this big announcement, and now we know what the big announcement was. So let me see if we can play you the buildup to what exactly was played this morning. It looked like he was super Trump with laser eyes. I don't know if we have it. All right. Well, anyway. Oh, here it is.
America needs a superhero.
Okay. So the major announcement was supporters of former President Trump can now buy Trump trading cards, digital Trump trading cards featuring former President Trump. That was the big announcement. They are $99 each. And if you buy a Trump digital trading card for $99, then you get entered into sweepstakes for prizes, including dinner with Trump and other memorabilia. That was the major announcement. More ways for him to make money. Is anyone surprised?
I would not trade my old Willie Mays card from the bubblegum package for every single digital card. And as to have it, Kim, can you imagine if you and I were invited to Mar-a-Lago? Forget if somehow we decided to go for the journalistic value of it, right? Or just to do our sort of Hunter Thompson report on something that weird. And then you run into what? You have the guy who, you have the anti-Semite, you have the virulent anti-Semite, you have Kanye. And is the food even any good over there? I think we do a lot better to avoid the prize, avoid the whole thing. Now, of course, going to the holiday party with Justice Kavanaugh and Mark Gates, we call him the Gates of Hell on the Pat Thurston show in the old days.
That's right.
And some of the other kooks who were there with the grown-up frat boy with the charges from Dr. Jones up there in the Bay Area about what happened when they were teenagers. I don't think I want to go to the Trump dinner. I don't want to go to the Kavanaugh holiday party. I think I just much rather stay on your show and chat with you. Okay,
so
Kim?
Let's talk about that. That's right. Mark's show. It's not my show. Don't be, he doesn't want me to steal it. I'm going to try not to. But you brought up the Kavanaugh going to the holiday party. And again, we go back to this, I don't know, thought that maybe it's a thought that I have. Maybe no one else feels the same way. Like the members of the United States Supreme Court are held to this level where they're beyond reproach, right? And so then you see them going to places and parties and associating with people who they really ought not to be. And it kind of diminishes, in my mind, what they bring to the table as far as what they're doing for the country. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And, when you're in a sensitive position like that, it's one thing to say, well, it's just a party and how can you help who you associate with? But you and I know that if something's really important and the guest list is important, we want to know who's on the guest list, okay? When I was an assistant U.S. attorney, which was not nearly as high a post as being an associate justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, it mattered. You say to your friend, hey, there's not going to be anybody there who's under, criminal suspicion by our office or something like that. Is there, I don't mean to embarrass you. I don't know who your friends are, who your friends' friends are, but there's not going to be anyone there who's going to embarrass me or it's going to be controversial. You'd at least ask that question. So it's sort of like in your face, because Kavanaugh knows very well who the guest list is going to be. He can very much call ahead and say, look, this Matt Gaetz, he's under criminal investigation. His case may come before our court. Is Matt Gaetz going to be there? And the sponsor of the party who wants Kavanaugh and his wife to come is going to say, yeah, he is. And then Kavanaugh's going to say, I just kind of have to decline. Or the host is going to say, well, I'll make a call to Gaetz and make sure Gaetz doesn't show up. So it's in your face. It's like, I can associate with these people, some of who are absolutely scandalous, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's sort of like Kavanaugh. You remember his testimony where he was screaming and yelling at the, what was it, Senator Klobuchar, and he was acting so inappropriately. He's got that aspect of him, obviously, no matter how much power and honor he should have in life, of that, ha, 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 ha. You can't do anything. I can associate with Gaetz and all these arch-right conservatives, all these controversial people. I'm supposed to be objective and down the middle, and you can't do anything about it. And the reality is we can't do anything about it. Now, Clarence Thomas, I tell you, we can do, I think, something about him. I think there has to be a senatorial investigation. The Senate is still in Democratic hands, and I know they have a lot of business to do. But, they have every right in the world to inquire into. They can call people from the executive branch. They can call people from the judicial branch. They may get payback from the Republicans. The Republicans may call Sotomayor in there thinking that's some payback. But they can ask Sotomayor anything they want to. She's got nothing he has to answer for. But Clarence Thomas has a lot to answer for. You look at this communication between Mark Meadows, and if you've seen this latest one that just came out with the Mark Meadows communications, one of them is with Ginny Thomas. So Ginny Thomas is watching Giuliani give that speech where the makeup is running down his face and he's saying crazy things. And she's writing congratulatory things in real time. They compare when he's talking, so that it's Ginny Thomas saying wonderful things about him, basically subverting democracy, coming up with a nonsense plan that would have subverted our democracy and thrown out a Democratic vote. And Ginny Thomas is saying wonderful things about it. Now, you don't think that she went home that night and talked to her husband about that? Really? They got every right in the world to ask Clarence Thomas. He can either take the Fifth Amendment, he can claim it's spousal privilege. That would be rich. That would be rich. Or he can answer the question that, yes, she talks to me about cases and about everything all the time. And that presents a real troubling issue. If a far right-wing activist like Ginny Thomas, who was involved with Arizona and all these other things that are under criminal investigation or investigation by the January 6th committee, talks to her husband, who's on the U.S. Supreme Court and deciding not only casting the decisive vote, but he's not recusing himself when he shouldn't be casting any votes in cases where everybody says you have to recuse, but there's no body that can tell him you must recuse. Everyone can look at it like scholars, right, left, center, and say, look, this is a violation of judicial ethics, but there's no board above the Supreme Court that can tell him you're violating judicial ethics. Stop. The Senate can do it, and of course, public opinion. And the sad thing is that while he is disparaging the Supreme Court's being disparaged. Now, you might say after Dobbs and Roe v. Wade, they deserve to be disparaged. But, the end game of all of this is that the Supreme Court make rational, principled decisions based on precedent, and that trust in the U.S. Supreme Court is restored, because it's very important. The Supreme Court at the end of the day only has the power that people respect its judgment. The famous saying, I guess Jackson said this, when the Supreme Court tried to stop the Trail of Tears, when the Native Americans were trekked across 3 or 4 states. And the Supreme Court said, you can't do that. And Jackson says, they made their ruling, let's see them enforce it. I have an army, they don't. And the Supreme Court doesn't have an army. It can't hold money back like the Congress can.
Right.
It's basically, they rely on their respect, and their respect is in the toilet at the moment.
I know I'm over time with you, but since we're on the topic of the Supreme Court, I really wanted to ask you about this. There's a story about Congress removing a statue of Supreme Court Chief Justice, of the Supreme Court Justice who wrote the Dred Scott decision. So this is Roger Taney.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Taney's statue to be replaced by a bust of Thurgood Marshall, the court's first black justice. So I clearly you've made your position on that clear. Is this a long time coming, and why now?
It's such a long time coming, and Taney's not a close call. He was an opponent of the North in the Civil War. It's unbelievable. A lot of people who were segregationists, who were what's I'm looking for, insurrectionists, who were with the South when the Civil War broke out. A lot of the senators and representatives, they went back and they served in the Congresses in the Confederacy. Many people expected him because of his, virulent racist views, segregationist views, pro-slavery views. They expected that he would go back and assume some post in the Confederacy. Instead, he stayed in Washington. He stayed on the Supreme Court. And yes, he was the author of Dred Scott. And, he expected to actually be arrested.
Which, by the way, for those that don't know, Dred Scott decision defended slavery, right? And denied black people citizenship.
It said that blacks were not human beings.
Right.
It said blacks were not human beings, and therefore they didn't have these rights to invoke the law in their favor, not because of some quirk in the law, but because, generally speaking, they weren't human beings. I mean, it was one of the worst moments. In our jurisprudence.
So to me, there's some kind of. I was just going to say it's poetic justice that Taney's bust would be replaced by Thurgood Marshall's bust. It's like, I don't know. I love that.
It's wonderful poetic justice, but his statue should have been taken down. I've got my issues with some of the statues, not the ones of the Confederacy. Those people were traitors. But since I'm on your show, and the Teddy Roosevelt one, which is a neighborhood I grew up in New York City, by the American Museum of Natural History. It was a beautiful statue of a strong black man, a strong Native American, and Teddy Roosevelt. But Teddy Roosevelt was on a horse, and the other two weren't on a horse. And it got to be very controversial, and it's actually been torn down. There's a big black box when there was, in my opinion, a handsome statue that did not disparage, either race. I thought it exalted them. But anyway, it's gone. I have some feelings about some of the statues and some of the situations, but this was one that, you're right, should have been gone 100 years ago. It should have been gone after the Civil War and the North won, and people realized he did everything he could to thwart Lincoln. He was going to rule that the embargo of the South was illegal, so the South could have traded with the whole world and replenished its stores and fought the North more vigorously. He ruled that habeas corpus couldn't be suspended. And he actually expected, it's a great story, he actually expected he was going to be arrested. But he was never arrested. Taney served the whole Civil War voting against Lincoln. That was one of the reasons that Lincoln went to 10 justices, which we've talked about before, that the president and Congress acting together don't need a constitutional amendment. They can increase the number of justices on the Supreme Court. But to make sure that Taney, and he had a little coterie around him, to make sure that he and his little group didn't actually, find the blockade of the South unconstitutional, or say that even in wartime, Lincoln couldn't suspend the writ of habeas corpus. That was one of the reasons why Lincoln wanted to have one more member on the Supreme Court to counteract that block with Taney in it. And so it's fascinating history, and it's absolutely great. And I can't think of a better person than Thurgood Marshall. I never got the pleasure to meet him, but his son was a law clerk right down the hall from where I was a law clerk in the courthouse in Washington, D.C. Goody Marshall, great guy, great guy, and a legendary father, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much. David Katz, former assistant U.S. attorney. You are at David Katz Law, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the Mark Thompson Show today. I could talk to you all day long. So thank you for being here.
It's so great to be with you.
Thank you. And it's the tech problems we had. If people were voting on whether we'd get you on the air today, I'm glad to say it all went great. So thank you so much.
With a great pinch hitter. Great job, Tim.
That's right. Thank you, David Katz. See you next time. Next Thursday on the Mark Thompson Show, David Katz coming back. I'm a little late for news, but I am going to get to it. Before we do, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, to click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the show, you can do that now as well. Smash it with your iron rod. I don't have the same effect, but smash it with your iron rod. Click that like button. thank you so much for doing it. We really appreciate it. It makes a difference somehow with YouTube. We don't really understand why or how, but we're grateful for your support and we love it. Thank you so much. I'm still waiting for my friend, comedian Johnny Steele, to join us. So we'll be talking to him in just a little bit. But first, I wanted to get some news to you. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Top Russian officials being hit with new sanctions. One of the individuals targeted is an oligarch. Secretary of State Antony Blinken describing that person as a close associate of President Vladimir Putin. Again, as I mentioned to David Katz, supporters of former President Trump can now buy digital trading cards that feature Trump. That is what his major announcement that he had previously teased on Truth Social was all about. They are $99 each. Purchases then will be entered into a sweepstakes for prizes, which may include dinner with Trump and signed memorabilia. There are more details in the death of the man known for being Ellen DeGeneres' DJ on her TV show. TMZ reports the wife of Stephen Twitch Boss reported that her husband went missing on Tuesday morning. Sources telling TMZ police elevated the situation to a critical missing persons case after she said that her husband's actions were out of character. And unfortunately, we know that he took his own life. Legislation created in response to Gabby Petito's murder is now sitting on President Biden's desk. Parents of the New York native are backing the Help Find the Missing Act. That was approved by the Senate last week. The measure requires information on missing people to be entered into the FBI's internal database and then shared with the department. A popular bubble tea store in the Bay Area is no longer. The original Boba Guys location in San Francisco's Mission shut down for good. The co-founders did not provide a reason, but the move comes after some workers claimed they suffered retaliation for discussing union rights. The group protested with signs that spread to social media, sparking an online backlash against the company. And I think this is around the Bay Area, but it particularly pertains to us in the North Bay. Unfortunately, Clover Sonoma will no longer make ice cream. What a bummer. Yeah, the 106-year-old dairy in Petaluma discontinuing its line of ice creams. The CEO said, look, it's just a crowded and competitive category dominated by large national brands with really big budgets. Fans knew something was up, they say, when popular flavors went missing from the shelves. So no ice cream at the Sonoma Marin and Sonoma County fairs, but Clo the Cow will still be there. They just won't be giving out ice cream. There's an unusually high number of adults in the United States that may actually believe in Santa Claus. It's the truth. A recent Ipsos holiday season poll of more than 1,000 adults found 21% of respondents said they believe in St. Nick. Meanwhile, 46% of those surveyed said their children are believers. The poll also found 3/4 of adults think most Americans have forgotten the real meaning of Christmas. I like this poll. Meanwhile, Americans said the most annoying or overplayed Christmas song is Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas. Do you think that's annoying? I don't know. I kind of like that one. You think? Yeah,
you think it's for annoying? A little while. I'd be fine with that.
The news sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, give Steve a call. It's 888 Tax Deal. You can also reach him on the web at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister, of course, on the Mark Thompson Show. And my friend Johnny Steele has not called in. Albert, I gave you the phone number, so maybe we can check in with him.
I just sent him a text message. I might do a classic call, but
okay.
I'll have to follow up with you. Okay,
rustle him up, see what we can do to get him on the air because I really want to talk to him. It's either that or a pre-recorded Mark Thompson interview. I don't know, you guys. What do you prefer? I'm thinking I want to talk to Johnny Steele. No offense, Mark
I got
Thompson.
his attention. He'll be on. He's on his way. He's setting it up now.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So I don't know. What do you guys think is the most annoying Christmas song? Because I Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas. I feel like that's an earworm. Like once I hear it, I'm singing it over and over again.
It's a very good melody. It's played too much. The worst song is the Paul McCartney one.
You have to sing it for me.
So it's Wonderful Christmas Time something.
Simply
like a little I think that's one of the worst ones.
like it, kind of.
No.
Speaking of which, the John Lennon one, like, it's a great song. It's just kind of a bummer. His
Which
Christmas
one?
song too.
Oh.
Yeah.
What about Wham? This Christmas, I gave you my heart.
To me, there's only one Christmas album, one Christmas song, and that's Vince Carardi. You know, the Charlie Brown Christmas. That's it. Done.
That's it? That's all you need?
That's all I need. Just put that on Endless Loop where I'm good.
So, it's so funny. I was listening to the terrestrial radio, they call it, yesterday, and they were playing. They intersperse at a station in Sonoma County. They intersperse kind of popular music from now with Christmas music. So it's not all Christmas music, right? So it's some Christmas music, some regular. And I turned it on right as the announcer is saying, and that was Burl Ives. And I thought, how cool is that? That like so many years later, you're always going to hear your name you're always going to hear it, but his name is always going to be announced on the radio because it's a total classic. No one can really ever recreate it. Many have tried.
The 30s, 40s, like everything made in that little chunk just nailed it, and nothing since and nothing
That's
before.
Right. I mean, those are the songs, right? That's what when you think of Christmas music, that's Christmas music.
I think I associate all Christmas music with the TV specials. You know, like I have no individual songs. It's all the songs I like were from the TV specials.
That's exactly right. Like the Rudolph song,
Frosty.
Silver and Gold, right? Isn't that from one of the specials?
I think so. I think that was
Silver and Gold.
Yeah, I don't remember which one that was from.
Yeah. Frosty too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to some of these.
All of the Rankin Bass stuff, all the like the claymation stop motion stuff, right?
Yeah, so good.
Oh yeah, those are all classic. Love those. It's like the time of year. I'm a millennial though, so that's like me watching Home Alone. That's like Home Alone and NSYNC's Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. That's like my wheelhouse.
Mo Direct says it's Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Or Nick says any Christmas song with vocals. That's kind of what you. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights.
It's all right.
I think this one is a classic, William. The Chipmunk song. You think that's annoying?
It's fine. It goes with my childhood too, so.
Oh, I'm being totally dissed. Tom says no to the Wham song. John says no to the Wham song. Huge in Japan is all with you, Tony. Absolutely. Oh no, Feliz Navidad. Really? I love Feliz Navidad.
He's a hell of a guitar player, that guy. Like you don't realize how amazing he was as a guitar player because that song was his most famous one.
It kind of like overshadowed his body of work.
It's like, oh yes.
You're right. Becky's right. It is all overplayed. By the time Christmas is over, we're all done with the music because we've heard it over and over and over.
The 26th, done. I didn't want to hear another Christmas song. Was the 26 hits. It's like you have till midnight the 25th and we're done.
Becky's like Andy Williams though and Bing. Also, I would say, and here it's one of these things you can't believe is coming out of your mouth. Perry Como, like all these Christmas artists from the past are the ones. They are the ones.
When you can integrate a whistle solo into a song like they did with some of the classic hits, it's good. Like you don't see a lot of people whistling into microphones these days.
Absolutely. A second vote for McCartney's. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing that will be missed, says Mo, is the Christmas songs and commercial-free Christmas music and short stories that Station X had during the holidays. Yes. You know what's really cool is we never had to work on Christmas. You never even had to request it off because the station would always just go flip to Christmas music for 24 hours. And then we pre-record some readings and some things. And so it's fun. I always really enjoyed that part of it too. That's gone. That's sad. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Well, there's some poor board op making sure all the Christmas music gets played.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Spoken like someone who knows. John says, I've managed to avoid being sent to Wham Holla this year. Thank you very much. What's Wham Holla? I don't know what that is. Last Christmas video is fantastic. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Darlene Love sings Christmas Baby, and then it's Christmas Baby, Please Come Home. I like that one. But you're saying that's probably the most annoying? All right. William Hung for the holidays. I can see that being the most annoying.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Came and went
Jingle
real quick.
bells. Cornelius Yukon was the GOAT. Yes, he was.
Yep.
I do believe it. Yes, Silver and Gold was by Burl Ives. His voice is so deep and resonating and amazing. Another vote for Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. Karen says Bruce Springsteen, Santa Claus is coming to town. I kind of agree with you. It's so repetitive. The Santa Claus is coming to town.
It's either you like Springsteen's voice or you don't. For most people,
I mean,
that seems to be the hard cutoff.
I do in some songs, but like I think by the time that song is ended, I've really had quite enough. I don't know. Oh, Sirius XM New Wave Christmas Live is the best. I'll have to check that out. Jose Feliciano, you think that's annoying? All right. Bing White Christmas and Holiday Inn movie. Best. Okay. Oh, you're tired of hearing this one. The classic Here Comes Santa Claus.
We even forgot to mention Johnny Mathis. Johnny Mathis probably the voice of every shopping mall of me growing up when it's Christmas season. I'm just walking around listening to his songs.
Yeah, Johnny Mathis, he's cool. Also, this one, best song, Mele Kalikimaka by Chris Isaac. I have to seek that out. I don't know if I've heard that. I mean, I've heard the song, but I haven't heard that version of it, so I'll check that out. Because I like the song. Okay, this is an interesting one. Sticky Cola Bud writes, I worked at a pizza place once and a coworker put $5 in a jukebox, all on Jingle Bell Rock. I still can't listen to it. I guess that $5 went a long way. Santa Baby by Eartha Kitt. Muzak renditions of Christmas music. The best is Dreadlock Holiday 10cc. I have not heard that. Again, you guys are giving me some good ideas. All right, cool.
If you see in the lobby, we have both Steve and Jay Steele is here.
Steve, so let's take Steve first.
Okay.
And thank you guys for all your annoying Christmas music. Steve Moskowitz, everybody, is coming in because we want to talk to you about end of year taxes. Steve, hi.
How you doing? And here it is. We're so close to Christmas, knocking on the door. And, you know, a lot of people stop thinking about their taxes and they're in holiday mode. And I understand that. You know, I'm a human being too. But right now you have an opportunity to save yourself some taxes so you can spend more on your family in the holidays. And, you know, if you have a tax problem, you might consider the best gift you can give to your family is fixing it. For example, there's a lot of people who just can't pay their taxes.
Yeah.
And we know the IRS is in the process of hiring those new 87,000 agents. And a lot of those guys are going to be chasing you down now. And when you can't pay your taxes, it affects everybody, not only the individual person, the spouse, the kids. And you don't want to be in a situation where you come home and you say, well, we can't afford to go to the grocery store. I won't sell that to their kids. And you know, people would like to enjoy their holiday. And people worry every day. The mail comes, oh my God. They check the bank. Did the IRS hit the bank? What's going on?
Yep.
And a lot of times, and I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but I've seen a lot of people's bank accounts get hit right before Christmas, like around December 23rd. I don't know if the computer's just geared up that way. And part of the problem might be the computer stays on, but the people in the government who can take it off you, have it unsick you, they're on holiday. So all of a sudden the computer takes it, your account, and now there's nobody to talk to take it off. So the bottom line is one of the things you might consider as a gift, even if you don't care about yourself, as a gift to your family and your patients, clients, customers, whatever. How about this Christmas you can enjoy Christmas, and instead of worrying about it, enjoy Christmas with your family and let us take care of your tax problem for you.
I love it. And I think that will be a load off of people's minds as well. A lot of people, as you mentioned, kind of lay awake thinking about it. So just even knowing that Steve is on the case and you've got things, you know, on the right path is a load off. Definitely. So Steve Moskowitz is at 888 Tax Deal. He's also online at moskowitzllp.com. You can see at the bottom of the screen there. So right there. So thank you very much, Steve Moskowitz. I appreciate you coming on. I'll see you tomorrow.
Pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I want to welcome into the show now friend and comedian Johnny Steele. Hey, buddy.
How you doing, old girl?
Good.
I think
Good. How are you?
Sideways. Let's see if
I don't know about sideways.
Oh, my dog's barking. He doesn't like this show.
No, he doesn't like strange voices coming into the house.
That's what he thinks. Nick, it's over here. It's Kim. Nick, come here. All right. Nick is.
So what are you doing?
Nick is a little foster. He was at animal care and control on death row like 2 months ago.
Oh,
probably
wow.
for barking like this and destroying interviews, probably. And
no, you know what? I think we're willing to take his barking to ensure that he lives. So this is good.
He had a little back injury and they were going to put him down. So they said, well, we'll give him to a rescue group. Come here. We'll give him to a rescue group and some sap will take him for a couple of months. There he goes.
Yeah.
Hey, Nicky.
Oh, yeah, he's just a little. We'll take the barking. It's no big deal.
His back is much better. Mine, on the other hand, no good. So you should have a doctor rather than an accountant on. I'd rather talk to a doctor today than an accountant. How you doing?
I'm good. I wanted to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
The first of which, are you skiing this holiday season? Because I know you're a big skier. I just saw this article on SF Gate today. The controversial Palisades Tahoe base-to-base gondola opened this weekend. Are you headed up there to check it out or what?
That goes between what used to be Squaw, which is now Palisades, and then Alpine, which it goes from one resort that I normally couldn't afford to another resort I couldn't afford. When they build one that goes from the bar in Strawberry to the top of Sierra Tahoe,
you're there.
That's what I could afford. So this is a funny story, right? I ran into you at a hospital in 1998 in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's right. After I had already booked you for a comedy show that I was putting together for a radio station where I was working. And there's Johnny Steele on the gurney because I was also working in the emergency room when I was going to school. So there's Johnny Steele. He's laying there. He's true to form. It's a snowboarding injury, right?
Yes. Yep. I think that time was a broken arm and 2 broken bones in my foot and some other minor injuries from tumbling down the backside of Heavenly. But yeah, that's Kim, Johnny, what? So,
I know. Like, what are you doing here? Why are you wearing scrubs? I don't know. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was funny. So then I visited the hospital a couple of more times with other slightly less severe injuries, including having my knee drained. Which these injuries are good for comedy material. I ended up with like a 15-minute routine about the size of the needle they use to drain your knee and all that. But so I was on the fence about should I keep doing this because I had I played football all through high school and college and had a number of injuries from that, and I thought maybe this isn't a good idea. And then I don't forget what year it was. Well, recently as well. We had a drought and it just was not much snow up there. And, you buy the season ticket and you only go 5 times and you're skiing on rocks and you blink twice and 20 years has passed. And so I've sort of semi-retired basically on the advice of my lumbar vertebrae. And, and it's just all right. You used to be able to get up there from the Bay. I'm calling you from lovely Berkeley right now, but you used to be able to get up there for like 2.5 hours to Sugar Bowl from my house here. And that's not happening anymore,
No, it's got to be 4 hours at least, right?
It's hours to get there and there's more people on the hill. So I don't want to sound like an old man. In my day, they paid you to snowboard and it snowed on my roof, but no, but it just became a thing where it's more time, more energy, more bad injuries. And there's another thing too. At this age now, we were like, 40 when that happened, 30s. You learn why everybody moves to Florida when they get old. I don't mind the cold. I like it, but every injury you've ever had comes back to haunt you, right? So getting out, sitting in the car for 4 hours and hopping out in 28-degree weather and then snowboarding is not something that I'm doing a lot of these days.
So I wanted to ask you if you have any shows upcoming this winter, because I couldn't find any online. So what are you up to?
I do. Well, I have a lot of private ones, and for a lot of comics post their private gigs. But you know why? The people who are at the private gig, a corporate, real estate brunch, a holiday party, all you're basically doing is telling the burglars you're not home that night. So
if I can't come to it, I don't want to know about it.
Yeah, I know it looks good on your schedule to have all these things, and that's what I've done about 4 of them in the last few days. You'll love this because you're a radio gal, but you were attached to comedy a little bit. I had one recently. One at 8 o'clock at night, one at 8 o'clock the next morning, and one at 8 o'clock that night. And that may not seem weird to the average person, but comics, you don't get up at 6:15 usually, in the morning, unless you're catching a flight to New York or something. So it was, and then just wildly different groups. One is a bunch of sort of hyper liberal people in San Francisco, and the next morning you're, in Walnut Creek doing a bunch of realtors. So, eating, sausage and scrambled eggs. So really weird. So those I didn't put up, but I am doing a sort of, Mr. Will Durst, who unfortunately is not well. Well, he's recovering from a stroke, right?
Right.
That I used to do for 20 odd years. I did a year-end Kiss Off comedy tour with him and about 5 other people. It rotated. Greg Proops was in at one point,
Right.
Ken Sonkin, the great Steve Kravitz. A lot of other people came and went, but we had a mixed ensemble. But Will and I were the 2 of the mainstays in it. And because of his stroke 2 years ago, that's not happening anymore. As I joked to Will, he was always a good businessman. He had his stroke right before the COVID. How smart that is, because all the gigs were canceled anyway. He's a brilliant guy. Me, I'm going to have my stroke right in the middle of the gravy days when I got 50 gigs, and then I'm going to be screwed. Have your stroke right behind. I don't mean to be making fun of Will's stroke, but I'm just saying, what a smart move.
What's the crazy thing is, I think Will would love that. So that's great.
Will, I've already said that to him. He howled. He loves a little irreverent. So yeah, I'm doing a little mini tour. What was it? The Thursday, the 29th, I'm at the Alameda Comedy Club with a couple of buddies, the brilliant Michael Meehan, who you might know, and also Jeff Bolt, who's just done over 1,000 radio and TV commercials and voiceovers, and regular mainstay and a lot of national public radio shows doing his funny characters and whatnot. We're doing the 29th at the Alameda Comedy Club, which if you've not been, man, it's beautiful. It was designed in part by Eddie Brill, who I'm pretty sure, it was Eddie Brill, I'm pretty sure, who was involved with New York Comedy and the David Letterman show. So it's a perfect setup. Small stage, the stage is on the long wall, not the skinny wall. A lot of times you're playing a racquetball court with people way in the back. No, it's none of that. That's the 29th, the 30th, the first comedy show. There's a little rock and roll club out in Pleasant Hill, and I come from that Contra Costa area, and it's called Wise Girl. They have a lot of good rock and roll bands. I mean, these guys have played in Joe Satriani's bands and Power of Power, and they got their fun little side projects, and they go in there, and I go there sometimes to see shows, and they said, why don't we do a comedy show here once? And so it's the first comedy show, and that will be Friday night, Christmas and New Year's Eve, the 30th, again with Michael Meehan.
Okay.
And Jeff Bolt. And then I'm up to Marin on New Year's Eve. Bolt and O'Brien go their own ways. Actually, Bolt and Meehan go their own ways. And I'm at a all-star show at the Dominican College with like 5 comics, 3 of whom are flown up from LA, including Maureen Langan is in town, who spends her time between New York. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's going to be a big one. And don't ask me where the hell those tickets are. Alameda Comedy Club's online. The New Year's Eve blowout at Dominican, I think it's Angelico Hall. Yeah. So that's, and then, then we're off to Sketchfest. Me and some of the same guys are doing Sketchfest in San Francisco. I'm at the Punchline, I think, the first week of February.
Wow, you're busy. I'm lucky I got you this morning.
Yeah. Sorry I was a bit late, but like my computer didn't like your thingy somehow, my new laptop. I think the wrong browser. So then I go to find my phone, and of course, this is modern age. Then my phone is out of juice. So then I got to find the charger. And then I have a holder for my phone, so I don't have to hold it and make it look like you're interviewing someone in an earthquake. And then I can't find that. And then my dog's barking. So
I think it's all right. I think it's all right. God, I can't believe that you have so much going on. I only have a couple more minutes with you because coming up, we're going to talk to Belinda Weymouth about the environment, which is crucial and important. And I know you love the environment because you're an outdoorsman. But
I've been mostly vegan-y guy for 30 some years, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And an animal lover, right? Hey, I wanted to ask you, is your dog, is his name Nick?
Nick, yeah.
Is Nick your only pet?
Yes, Nick is. I've had dogs constantly my whole life, and my last one passed away a couple of years ago, and I just haven't been able to say hi, Nick. I haven't brought myself to grab another one. And when I saw this guy on death row, like 24 hours I ran out there and he's supposed to be a foster, but who knows? He's working his way in. He came in my bed like a week ago and won't get out at night. So he's making a bid for staying here. I may be what they call a foster fail. We'll see. Come here, Nick.
Are you going home? Are you going to the families for Christmas, or what are you doing for the holidays?
You know,
other
I'm
than
at the age now where the
performing your
folks,
rear end off.
I used to even perform on New Year's Eve, various Jewish festivals, all sorts of different Jewish festivals and whatnot, and Kung Pao kosher type shows. But no, I won't be working Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And, you know, I'm at the age where
Okay.
my folks are gone and my siblings are scattered. So
Okay.
most of those meetups are via Zoom. And then, you know, there's all sorts of fun. You know, for years I wanted to go to the Mechanical Museum on Christmas Day, because it's open in the wharf. If you've never been, it's one of the greatest things, these antique
Oh,
arcade games. And it's
okay.
open on Christmas Day, and no
Right.
one's in the wharf, and parking is free. So I think me and some buddies are going to meet there and have some coffees and go in and spend an hour and then go our own separate ways, or something fun
What a
like that. Hike in the hills,
great
whatever.
idea. I love that. That's awesome. Well, I hope you'll have a great time with that and all the shows. I want to see if you'll come back on when Mark. Do you know Mark Thompson?
Oh, God, I know Mark from way back. Yeah,
Okay,
the weather
so I
guy
would
from.
love for you to come back when Mark is here as well, so that he has a chance to talk to you. And I just miss you so much, and it's so great to see your face.
Good to see your face. Next time I'll groom and shave and get the thing that holds my phone.
All right, Johnny Steele, thanks for coming on the Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. So I'm skipping the newscast at the bottom of the hour because I have a really important guest who I feel like we never quite make sure that she gets enough time. So let's bring in Belinda Weymouth to the program to talk about the environment. Belinda, hi, how are you?
Hey, Kim, I am great. And I'm really sorry. I think I'm in my echo chamber room today. So listeners,
No,
if
you
it sounds
sound amazing. You sound really,
good.
really good. I
Okay,
miss
cool.
seeing you, but you sound great. You know what? Something I didn't know about you, sister.
Mm.
I was looking you up online because I wanted to make sure that I spelled your name correctly.
Mhm.
And you're a famous actress. Wow. Like, and absolutely drop dead gorgeous, like this hot blonde. We don't see, I only know you from the show, although I actually do know you from things you've been in that I just didn't realize you were in. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh my God, that's Belinda Weymouth. And so I was like, you are a famous lady. That's awesome.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, you know, I started out as a radio journalist in New Zealand, and then I was like, oh, I have to be an actress. I just have to. And then I did that. And that's what actually brought me to the US. I went to New York to study. And then I came out here to work because there's more work in LA. And then when my kid was 3, I went back to school because I'm like, you know, I've got a brain and I want to use my creativity in a different way and in sort of a different service to mankind. And I had with a 3-year-old kid, I was like, man, I got to do something about the planet. And so that's when I did my environmental science degree at UCLA. So, and now I just do, Kim, you know, it's all of it. It's all my talents get rolled into one, all the things I know how to do to, you know, talk about the environment and try to, you know, get people on board with all the good stuff that's actually happening out there.
How old is your son now?
Oh, my daughter.
Daughter.
She's 18, so she's a senior, and she's just about to launch and go to college and all of that stuff. So yeah,
that's exciting. I have a 13-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and you are completely right. And by the way, a 13-year-old daughter, that's not easy.
yeah. Tell me about
I'm like, what's happening to me? Oh, but you're totally right about, you know, you look at children, you look at the younger generation, and you think to yourself, have I done enough? Am I doing enough? Am I making it so that things are better when we, you know, when the torch is passed? And I think in your case, you can say yes.
Yeah, you know, well, thank you for that. And I'll tell you what's interesting is I watched the documentary, that guy who, I think it's Chasing Ice, and he did this thing about, you know, the glaciers and how we're losing them. And he said one of his motivations was that, you know, when his kids, you know, in later life say to him, Dad, what did you do? And he's going to be able to look them in the eye and said, I did absolutely everything I could.
That's right.
You know, to raise awareness about what's going on. And it really struck me because I was like, you know, yes, that's what I want to do. I really want to raise awareness about, you know, these issues and what's happening. And, you know, and I feel like, you know, the terrain has so changed. You know, I went back to school. My daughter was 3, so 2008. And man, it's different now. I mean, this huge kind of, push that we're having towards renewables. And,
Yep.
We had this breakthrough in nuclear fusion this week, there's just a lot of things going on. And obviously the Russian invasion of Ukraine really made Europe go, okay, we have to be making this transition faster, which we do anyway. We have to reach our goals.
So I know you said you wanted to start out with good news. Why don't you hit me with the positive? Because I'm kind of feeling like I need it.
Okay. Well, do you remember on the show it might be a couple of months ago, and I was telling Mark about this amazing thing where these scientists, and a couple of them are based up in the Bay Area where you are using a fermentation process, like you used to make beer, to make the protein that's in milk. And so what they're doing is they're making cheese and ice cream and all these things that have nothing to do with the cow, but taste as if they come from the cow. Well, yeah, which is really a big thing, because, our industrial agricultural, sort of behemoth is so hard on the planet, on our water supply. It's awful for the animals. So New Culture, which has been, and it's a New Zealand guy, actually, a countryman of mine. So New Culture has been making this mozzarella through this fermentation process, and their first pizzeria is going to open next year, and it will probably be near you because they're in the Bay Area. So I thought that was cool. And Mark might get a bit more excited than you can, because, he's now, doesn't eat regular cheese. He's eating vegan cheese. And the fact that this will taste like, the original, cheese that he grew up on.
Sure.
So that's happening. And then the other thing this is sort of a good news, bad news thing. So this year on Earth Day, they started construction on this incredible wildlife crossing project. It's the biggest one in the world, and it crosses
in
the
Southern
101.
California, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is because we have got some sad news about our most beloved mountain lion in the city, P22. And I think that this incredible wildlife crossing will, one thing, it's going to come too late for him because of the timing of it, and he's not well right now. And then also he crossed the 405 and the 101, which is unbelievable that he was able to do that and live
unscathed, right?
Yeah, and he got to Griffith Park. But the problem is, he made it to Griffith Park, and all these people who live in Silver Lake and in areas around Griffith Park, Los Feliz, they love that they have this super famous mountain lion who also, the great thing about mountain lions, they're not interested in human beings living there, but he's completely isolated. So he has this really pathetic, I think it's on Facebook, sort of like a dating profile, and it's really like, number one, they gave him a super unsexy name, P22. That's not going to get you dates.
No, that's not going to work.
No, it's not cool. And then, it's kind of like, I'm lonely. And, really, it's, and he is, because he's all by himself. And what this incredible, this wildlife crossing project that they're building. So it's Liberty Canyon, the 101. It's going to cross, 10 lanes of seething Los Angeles traffic, and it's going to seamlessly blend into the hills on either side.
Yeah.
And the really amazing thing about it is how beautifully designed it's going to be. And it's going to come online, by, they're estimating right now by early 2025. They already have all the money. Wallace Annenberg, her foundation, gave over a quarter of it. So it's actually going to be named after her. And it's just not just mountain lions, obviously, they're going to use it, deer, coyotes, snakes, any living creature. So that's a positive thing, but sadly, P22 is really suffering right now. He's old, he's got bad health issues, and they are talking about, mountain lions don't do well in captivity because obviously, they thrive. He's been in the wild all this time, and they're saying that one of the things that might be a solution, to the suffering that he's in is euthanasia, which would be so sad, because even the people who, he was in their backyard, he'd killed a couple of small dogs. He went after chihuahuas, which is very different, because ordinarily, a mountain lion, will take on a deer.
Sure.
They want him, to make it, but he maybe won't. But we do have this incredible, wildlife bridge that will, make a huge difference for the rest of the mountain lions. I mean, we lost 5 already this year on the freeways. So we really, really, really need this bridge.
So here's a question for you, because I saw recently the shocking video of a coyote basically doing what coyotes do, which is attacking smaller prey, dragging it off to, assumably, eat it, right? In this case, it was a small toddler in Southern California.
Oh, God.
And so the dad runs around the car, sees that the child is being dragged down the sidewalk, gets the child, and then the coyote just kind of stands there, like kind of waiting until the dad scares it off and it runs away. And I thought to myself, thank God the dad intervened and the baby's okay and everything's fine. But that's what coyotes do, right? That's what a coyote's meant to do. And I read today that the coyote had been caught and killed. And so I guess, on one hand, the thinking would be, well, once they're in human areas and they're attacking human beings, then they think that's okay, right? And so then that same coyote may come back again and try again. And so that's the reason to euthanize it. But I guess I don't understand why you couldn't take it somewhere to some sanctuary or something. I guess I'm torn between that's their animal behavior and that's the way that they're supposed to do things versus protecting people. And so where do we draw the line, and when is the right time to euthanize, and is there ever a right time?
Yeah, it's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because obviously, we live in their territory, and we need to work out how we're going to share that territory. I mean, if you live in the Hollywood Hills here and you have a little dog, you've got to be out with it at night. You can't let it go outside to do its business, because
same here in the North Bay. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing is coyotes, as more and more of their prey animals get killed, because one of the big things that happens is, we put all this, rodenticide out, to kill rodents, to kill rats. So what happens is, the rat eats it, and then the slightly bigger animal comes along and eats the rat, and then the slightly bigger animal eats that. Well, that's what gave P22 mange and gives, these mountain lions mange. And if you're killing off, the ordinary, the usual animals, prey that are coyote hungry, that's when you see them coming down into the streets, and you see them, going after, our pets. And it would be great if, that you could, get them out of that habitat and release them somewhere else. And, but obviously they're part of a pack. And it's really hard, because human beings, we really have this eye for an eye thing, it seems, with a wild animal, that if it kills one of us or attacks one of us or threatens one of us, we seem to have no qualms, and like, oh, well, then we get rid of that animal. And I don't, I'm with you, I think. And I think also,
like, what did you expect from a coyote, right? What did you expect from a mountain lion? This is what they do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think our Fish and Wildlife and, our rangers, they really do want to save the animal. And it's interesting when you're in, say, a big national park like Yosemite, all the warnings that you get as a human being not to tempt bears, and that you even have to put your toothpaste in those big, metal lock boxes, because the sugar in the toothpaste will be, something that the bear can sniff out. So, this is the big problem for wildlife is, how does it cope with the number one, competitor and predator in the world, us? It's a tough one. It's a really tough one.
So before you go, I want to make sure you get to talk about this, because last month at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab, researchers managed to use a laser to zap this little pellet of hydrogen fuel. And what they started with was 2.05 megajoules of energy, and it released 3.15 megajoules. Don't know what a megajoule is, but
yeah.
But it created more energy than it had at the beginning, and that is big. Can you talk a little bit about this fusion and what it means?
Yeah. So woohoo, nuclear
Mhm.
fusion. So okay, we did it. And it's great that it's possible and that it's been achieved. And this was something that's been worked on for decades. So we know it's possible. We know that we can create more energy than we have to put in. Because so far with fusion, we've had to put so much energy in. I mean, you have to heat it up. The reaction that they were doing takes 150 million degrees of heat to do what they did. So it's really huge. Now, just to put it in perspective, the amount of energy that they created, and it was 50% more than they put in, which is great. It was enough energy to boil 2.5 gallons of water. And I don't sort of want to rain on the parade of fusion, but I'm going to, Kim. I'm just going to. I have to.
Okay, bring it on. Is it bad
yeah.
for the environment? Like, what are we looking at?
The thing, it requires they're hydrogen siblings. They're not your regular hydrogen. I mean, hydrogen. One of them is called deuterium, and that is super available. You've got it in ocean water. It costs about $13 a gram. But the other one, tritium, is this super rare radioactive isotope version of hydrogen. It costs $30,000.
Wait, you cut out there. It costs what?
$30,000 a gram. Not quite as expensive as diamonds, but getting up to how much diamonds cost.
So this isn't going to be cost effective.
Well, that's not even the issue. The issue is, where do we get it? So tritium right now comes from, there are 19, they're called the CANDUs. They're Canada deuterium uranium nuclear reactors. And one of their waste products is tritium. And so we have a supply of it, but half of these CANDU nuclear reactors are going to retire in the next 10 years. And right now, what they're producing is just 9.5 kilograms a year of this tritium. So what is estimated right now is that the world's available stockpile is about 25 kilograms of it. This is the commercial availability, because the military is very busy with tritium, but they're keeping it all for themselves because they use it to make nuclear weapons more effective. And,
as one does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so important. I know we're on the same page with this. So the world stockpile of 25 kilograms is going to be depleted so fast. And so what's happened is these plasma physicists have just been so single-minded on reaching this breakthrough event, which happened, as you described. We produced excess energy, which is fantastic. But what happened was, they were so focused on that the acquiring of enough tritium just was sort of this, kind of trivial, side issue. And the fact is, it's not a trivial side issue, because, leaving that as a side issue has, now proves to be quite a big mistake. So I've talked about this reactor that's being built. It's called ITER. It's spelled ITER, ITER, and it's being constructed right now in France, and it's a joint project. We're involved, other European countries. I think Russia is even involved in it. And it was meant to fire up in the early 2010s. It's now due to be burning this deuterium and this tritium fuel not till 2035. So it's way behind schedule, way over budget. And what they're estimating is it will have drunk almost the whole tritium milkshake, by 2050. And there'll only be 5 kilograms of it left. And that's all just, and it's a prototype. It's not even, there's not one customer who's going to be getting energy from ITER. It's this prototype, and there are all these other test fusion reactors that are, in construction, here, they're in construction in the UK, or they're actually, doing, they're working on fusion right now. But all of these test fusion reactors will be gobbling up, the stockpile of tritium that we have. And, after ITER, comes online and shows that, this fusion can be done, there's plans for this even bigger, power plant called Demo that will follow, and it will need, even more tritium. So the fact is, maybe there's going to be, a breakthrough, and it's not just going to be, waste that comes from, these fission reactors that we have now. But what they're talking about is getting a fusion reactor to breed its own tritium, enough of it to power the fusion reactor is really going to be the sticking point. So, I hate to be the person who sort of, rains on the, the nuclear parade, but I just feel like the, yes, we can do it, and that's great, but how feasible is it going to be really?
Right.
And we're putting all these resources and this incredible amount of money into it, and look, hopefully I'm, wrong, and what a lot of the naysayers, and I don't want to be, I'm not a naysayer, because I think that the fact that they, produced more energy is great, and that's a
Right.
starting point. But it's amazing the resources that are going into this internationally, and it could be this huge energy supply which we will need, and fingers crossed, I suppose, is all I can say, because it just seems like there are so many kind of, downsides and other issues way beyond that, just being able to push these two hydrogen, molecules together and create this incredible
Sure.
amount of heat.
John Smith has a great comment. He writes, so we need to have nuclear plants in order to have fusion plants? Catch 22.
Yes, totally. Because, and this is the other thing, is that tritium, can be really radioactive. So, the whole thing with fusion is we're supposed to be getting away from having radioactive waste. And yes, we need to have more fission plants, and the whole problem with radioactive waste to do it. And yeah, I just, I, as I've said before, it is going to be, this is an all hands on deck situation. Right. We need to get off fossil fuels as fast as we can, and we need to do it, in efficient and sensible ways. And, so I suppose I just say to the scientists, show me the sensible way that we can, do fusion.
Yeah, and I think that remains to be seen. We're still at the kind of the infancy of all this to see where it goes, and how I think it's going to be decades and decades before we are getting our power from this type of energy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. This is the thing, Kim, and this is the joke about nuclear power. It's always decades away. Always. I mean, in the 40s, it was decades away, not obviously, I mean, and then we, got it online, and then, it's, now this new technology. I mean, Biden did say, Department of Energy last week, was making this, this big announcement and how fabulous it was. He said, no, it can't be decades away. It has to be decadal. It has to happen in the next 10 years. And so, get it going in the next 10 years, and then we could get some of ETA's, we could use up some of the fuel, the tritium that they want, know. But, so what do we have in 10 years' time? We have a prototype, power plant. And then we have to actually, go, okay, it works, and we can do it on a large scale. Now we build the actual power plants.
A lot of people are talking about, didn't they find water on the moon, and suddenly all the interest in the moon is going to be reinvigorated, could be worth a look. They have HE3 laying around maybe on the moon.
Well, this is the thing that they've talked about, yes, is that you go to the moon to get it, or to get helium, because up in the way upper atmospheres and out of space, yes, there's more helium, and helium can be used in fusion rather than using these two different types of hydrogen. So yes, and more helium up there, because helium is just a sort of a trace element in our atmosphere. It's one of the tiny gases. So yes, if we could, I mean, that's the thing. It's sort of okay, it's going to take a moonshot to get the feedstocks that we need to run the fusion plants. So,
Belinda Weymouth, I love you. Thank you so much for always coming on. I always feel smarter and more educated after you come on and I hear what you're talking about. So I thank you for being here. You are on the Mark Thompson Show every Thursday. So we'll see you back here again next Thursday. And I'm so grateful to you for coming on with me today.
Oh, thanks, Kim. It was my pleasure. Totally my pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Okay, so coming up on the Nikki Maduro show at noon, we have Trump's latest grift. I bet she's going to talk about these digital trading cards. The attack on birth control begins. Nikki, no. Survivor finale. Oh, time already for that. And much, much more. Also, from white elephant parties to Christmas cards. I guess we're talking about holidays. So the Nikki Maduro show is next. You can find it online. I want to thank Albert so much. Thanks to John Daly for sending me some stories as well. Johnny Steele for popping in. David Katz for coming in. Belinda Weymouth. Tony, thank you for controlling everything and making it all sound good. And to Mark Thompson as well for letting us run the ship while he's gone, and for him popping in as well from Washington, D.C. and taking that time. And thank you all for being here. Remember to click the like button, and please join us again tomorrow. We've got some great things coming up. We're going to have, who are we going to have, Albert? We're going to have
Jim Avila, Michael Shore. Friday Fabulous Florida.
We're going to have that. We're going to have Michael Snyder. So a lot of great things coming up tomorrow. And we will see you right here on The Mark Thompson Show. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.